watching Gearz, brought to you by Holly Performance Products, fuel your passion, and Cornwell Tools, the choice of professionals.
The internal combustion engine is a marvel of engineering. You take liquid fuel and run it through a series of gears and valves and metal parts, throw in some fire, and you end up with a machine that has the potential for tremendous power, depending on how much fuel you shove into it. But as cool as that concept is, the most unique aspect of the internal combustion engine is the only thing that keeps all of those internal parts from rubbing against each other and destroying themselves over hundreds of thousands of miles is a thin coat of oil. So obviously, engine lubrication is extremely important if you want your motor to survive. Fortunately, oil has changed a lot over the years, with simple cans of oil giving way to multi-viscosity synthetics and blends that can overwhelm you at the auto parts store. But as good as the new oils are, they can be better. And that's why there's a lot of additives on the market too. Some actually work. Some fall under the description of snake oil. Basically, they're full of promises and hype and deliver none of it. But there is one company out there that claims that their products are based off of science, not hype. And they've actually got the numbers to back it up. So we figured the best thing to do is take everybody on a trip to Ohio and see what is secret about Hotshot's Secret. The first person we ran into was founder Chris Grabelchek, who started Hotshot Secret in his garage.
And I was working by myself, and at the time I had a 30 by 40 pole barn on our property out. It's about 10 minutes from here. Basically, I would keep enough stock for my customers, and then a lot of stuff I would drop ship. So it was like a stocking distributor type of scenario. And then my goal was, be done by noon on Friday and take my kids camping or fishing or something. So it wasn't this intense business plan. There was no big vision for a big company.
But Chris isn't your average gearhead. He's a tribologist whose field of study is friction. And in his garage, he solved a serious problem that Ford was having with the Power Stroke engine.
So Navistar called me and said, hey, we made this 6-liter engine for Ford, and we're having a lot of problems with these injectors. They're costing us about $500,000 a month in warranty. Is there, something that you can do to help us with it? So I went out to Indianapolis, worked with the engineer, and he showed me what the problem was. I blended up a couple things and kept working on it. Eventually, I came up with a product that would resolve the issue about 9 times out of 10.
The additive was so effective, it literally became the lifeblood to thousands of vehicles that the Hotshot first responders were using when Hurricane Katrina hit in New Orleans.
Those FEMA campers were being hauled from Indiana down to Louisiana, down to Florida. Those guys were all called Hotshotters. I thought, well, being the brilliant marketing person I am, we'll call it Hotshot Secret, so.
From then on, the pedal was literally to the metal. Because as a person that studies friction, Chris could see that there were many other areas in an internal combustion engine that could use some help. So the staff and the product line started to grow.
I went on eBay and ordered a single head filler that would time how long it would put the product in the bottle. And so that was my first bottling line, and me and Levi and a guy named Mark, we would take turns taking orders and filling bottles, and that's all we did all day.
And the testing is serious. Hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of high-tech equipment analyze everything from friction to heat to molecular breakdown. And they don't just test their products, they test everybody else's too. What do you take people's products, test them, and see how yours compare to them?
Yeah, it's really the only way you can tell if you have success is to really understand what's in the marketplace, some of the new chemistry in the marketplace.
Once we know what the problem is and the cause and effect, then we go to the lab and then we tweak and we keep trying to increase the best recipe that we can get to the best formula. I want to be able to sit across the table from anybody, and if they say mine's better than yours, say prove it, because if that's better, then we should be doing it that way.
Once the product is developed from a molecular level on up, they're only halfway there. Because now it needs to be packaged and processed, and this is not cheap and it is not easy. The specific formulas are mixed, then they're bottled, then the bottles are sealed and labeled and boxed up. And when you see the magnitude of this operation, it's hard to believe that it started in a single garage with one guy mixing while his wife took orders. Hey, welcome back, where we are telling the amazing story of Hotshot Secret, how by focusing on the science of lubrication, they went from a little tiny company to a massive organization. But believe it or not, that was not the most challenging part. Now, the most challenging part was getting people to try it. Because with the specter of snake oil hanging over any new additive that comes out, persuading people can be kind of tough.
We started in motorsports. We were an unknown. Remember, even when we began, I couldn't give our product away.
But slowly, people began to realize that Hotshots was legit.
And sure enough, these guys come back the next day and humbled, you know, say, wow, man, I get better mile per gallon on the way home instantly after I started a fuel additive, and it's idling smoother and cooler, and how much does this stuff cost? And now we sell out our booth every time we go to one of these. It's really come, you know, full circle.
And that led to the next step. Racing.
The technology we were using in over-the-road truckers going 100,000, 200,000 mile intervals without the oil shearing, we were using that PAO technology. Well, we said, well, nobody's using that in the racing set. Now, these guys aren't going 100,000 miles. They're going quarter mile, eighth mile at a time. But that extreme horsepower load that they're putting on that engine is equivalent to 100,000 miles in these big rig trucks. So both applications, we don't want that oil to shear.
Firepunk racing grew out of a dream that LaVon Miller had to just go fast in a truck.
I went to a diesel event in Indianapolis, and my friends talked me into buying a tech card and joining the ET class. And I went to the starting line, foot shaking like a leaf, and made my first pass. I ran a 14.6 quarter mile, and I was hooked.
That early truck quickly gave way to this fire-breathing diesel-powered S10 that for a long time was one of the fastest in the nation.
With a diesel engine, you can tickle the ECM and pick up 100 horsepower, and it's a huge change, and it bites you pretty good, and you want more of it.
Obviously, keeping a motor together at this level is a challenge, so LaVon was eager to try anything that might help. That included Hotshot Secret additives and their unique racing oil.
So since that point, back in the 80s, every synthetic oil you buy on the shelf is now Group 3. There are no Group 4 base oils on the market.
So there's no full synthetics?
Correct. They're all Group 3.
Except for these.
So that's why we came out with a full PAO synthetic.
We decided long ago that when we were going to get into this, we were going to build the best racing oil available.
Like, we would start seeing our oil pressure start getting lower with the other oils, where our oil pressure stays, because now pretty much the only reason we change our oil is contamination.
The result of all this work and development became clear when the Firepunk S10 made a world record pass, earning it the title of the world's fastest diesel truck.
This truck has been a 399 at 182 miles an hour in the 8th. That is actually a world record for the fastest diesel-powered vehicle, something that we have worked really hard for the last 3 years, and finally this spring down in South Georgia Motorsports Park, we were able to get that record.
And of course, the result of all that success means that Hotshot Secret has a whole line of high-performance engine oils to go with their additives and other products for gas and diesel engines. All developed by science and proven on the road, on the dyno, and at the track. So, what is the secret ingredient in Hotshot Secret? Well, obviously, there's a lot of stuff that goes into these bottles, but probably the most important is commitment to excellence. That way you know you're going to get a product that's superior, and it actually does what it says it's going to do. And if you put that stuff in your engine, you're going to find out exactly what Ford found out. This ain't no snake oil. You know, one of the most frustrating issues that a car enthusiast can face is the subject of VIN tags and titles. Now, obviously, a VIN tag are those all-important numbers on the car that identify what it is, and the title is that all-important piece of paperwork that says who owns it. Now, for the uninformed, this might seem like a no-brainer. You buy a car, it comes with a title matches the VIN, you're all good to go. Well, unfortunately, it's not always that simple. You buy a project or something out of a barn, a lot of times it doesn't come with a title, or the VIN tag has been lost. Then what do? It's a good question. So today we're going to walk you through the minefield of VIN tags and titles and show you how to keep your projects legal. Okay, the first thing we're going to deal with is a missing title, because that's the most common and it's the easiest one to fix. For example, I bought this truck and it came with no title. But what it does have is a VIN tag in the glove box, and it came with a bill of sale. So what you're going to need to do is take a photograph of that VIN tag, take the photograph and the bill of sale down to your DMV and apply for lost title. They'll run a check on the vehicle, make sure it's not stolen, and if it checks out, you'll get a title in a couple of weeks. Problem solved. The next problem is a little more difficult. What if you're missing the VIN tag or the VIN number? Now you're probably thinking, how is that even possible? Well, it's more common than you think. VIN tags get rusty or destroyed over time. They can also get removed or lost during a restoration, or a death, or a divorce. VINs that are stamped in the frame or the body usually get covered up with paint or filler or replaced with new metal. All of these can leave you with no official VIN tag. So what you'll need to do if you have a title is go down to your DMV and apply for a replacement VIN tag. They only cost about $10, but they will need to be put on by a law enforcement agent in whatever location you prefer. Now, what if you don't have a VIN tag or a title? Well, you're going to need to apply for both, which means you're going to have some sort of bill of sale and whatever pictures or documentation you may have gotten with the vehicle. It also may require that an agent comes out, does an inspection of the vehicle to make sure it's street legal and it is what you say it is. And if it checks out, they will issue you a new title with a matching VIN tag. But you need to keep in mind, every state is different regarding this kind of stuff. And ultimately, they're going to decide if they want to issue you documentation for your vehicle. So you need to remember that before you pull that old rusty piece of junk out of a barn with no documentation. You need to know what you're facing. Okay, one last thing to be aware of that's just surfaced over the last few years is the lack of tags and serial numbers on component cars, ground-up builds, resto mods, and high-end restorations. And the reason is there's a lot of companies out there that offer complete rolling chassis that you can slide right under a vintage car or truck body to give it modern drivability. The problem is when you do that, you also remove a lot of the original serial numbers and tags that identify the vehicle. Now, this may not seem like a big deal, but if you try to run that vehicle through a major auction like Mecum, they're going to refuse it unless it has a state-issued VIN on it. And a data plate on the door or the glove box is not acceptable here since those can be removed.
Here's an important part of the collecting car world that a lot of people may not understand, and that is, as a high-profile auction company, we need to make sure that the entries that come in have a legal VIN, and just as importantly, that they have a legal, what we call negotiable title.
So, if you are a professional builder or you think you want to flip cars, well, it's your responsibility to make sure all the tags and titles are in order before you sell stuff. That way the vehicles continue to get passed around and enjoyed, and everybody stays happy, including Uncle Sam.
And now, Parts Bin.
If you're a fabricator, one of the most important tools you can have in the shop is a vertical bandsaw. But the problem with most bandsaws is their size and their cost. That is until Dake came out with the VDL-18 vertical bandsaw. Take a look. To adjust your blade speed, you have a variable speed lever that uses a cast iron pinch pulley to allow you to dial in the best cutting speed for the material that you're working with. The saw has an 18-inch throat and an incredible 16-inch height to handle tall, bulky objects. Now, even though it's made to cut metal, it's also great for wood or foam or even plastics. The construction is tough with cast iron wheels and sealed bearings to handle years of continuous use, and the optional lighting kit allows you to put light exactly where you need it. There's also an adjustable cutting fence for making laser straight long cuts. And for safety, there's an internal disc brake that will bring things to a stop in a hurry when you stomp the pedal. To keep the work area clean, there's dual dust ports, and of course the cast iron cutting table will tilt so you can get those angle cuts that you sometimes need. With all the features this saw is loaded with and its ability to cut all kinds of metal and other materials in all kinds of different ways without taking up too much room or costing a fortune, it's no wonder the VDL18 is the saw that you'll see in most fabricators' shops and garages. Built in America, only by Dake. If you have a car or a truck or a boat or a motorhome or a jet ski or a tractor or anything that sits out in the weather, you are familiar with that black streaky film of mildew and dirt that forms over time and how hard it is to get off. Well, Sharkite has this cleaner called Black Streak Remover, and it is specifically designed to take those black streaks and remove them without damaging the paint or the metal or the fiberglass underneath. Now, to use it, you just spray it on, let it do its magic, and wipe it off. It's that simple and that quick. And that's a good thing if you've got a lot of surface to clean. If black streak buildup is a problem, Sharkite has the cleaner to make them disappear. If you're into muscle cars, you know that the second-gen Camaros and Firebirds not only were great street cars, but they were awesome race cars too, especially when they were all flared out in road race trim like they were in the early 70s Trans Am series. And that wide body look is making a huge comeback these days. The problem is, where do you find these big, wide fiberglass fender flares like they used back in the day? Simple, Campbell Auto Restoration. Take a look. This is a set of their fiberglass fender flares that are designed to blend right into your rear quarter panel or your front fender. And as you can see, they fit fantastic. They'll give you about 3 to 4 inches of flare. Of course, you can adjust that by trimming them. But you can see they even have the body lines front and rear, so they'll line right up. And they start the flare clear up here at the top where they should, so you get this nice bulge that makes these cars look so good. Now, obviously, you can rivet this on, but they were designed to be bonded on, and that way you lose all of this flange and it blends in and it looks like a factory fender, which is what you want. The matching front flares are about 2 inches wide, and they look just as good as the rears do. So now you can run those big wide meets front and rear and stay legal on the racetrack and on the street. So if you're looking to nail that classic wide body look, Campbell Auto Restoration's got the fender flares to make that happen. The only problem now is we're going to need wider tires, much wider tires. But that is a good problem to have.
What are you working on? Brought to you by Woodward Fabrication, selling quality metalworking equipment since 1966.
Today's What Are You Working On comes from Tom Lingelbach from Oregon, and he said his journey started when he got his wife a 1948 Ford F1. Now, he brought it home, and his 2 grandsons, age 4 and 5, said they wanted a truck just like it. Well, of course they did. So the grandfather was like, you know, how do I get these kids into a truck? Obviously, they can't drive a full-size truck, so he decided he was going to build them a little go-kart version. Now, look at this. He went out there and he started working with the kids, and the only stipulation was that they had to help in the shop. Of course, the kids were ecstatic about that. So for 2 years, they've been building in the shop. Now, look at this. They built the frame and the body from scratch in the garage. It has a 6-horsepower Predator engine in it. And of course, Grandpa did all the welding and metal forming and fabrication. And he said the oldest even helped him paint it. Now, like I said before, this was a 2-year project, and I'm sure that those grandsons were getting a little antsy, but he said that this weekend they finished it, took it to the first car show, and take a look at this. They said they had a great time enjoying the truck. The kids were overjoyed. The adults loved it. And he said he and his wife had a great time watching them enjoy the truck. Man, what a cool project. Everybody needs a grandfather like this. So to recognize such a cool project, Tom, we're going to give you one of these tubing notchers, because I'm sure you've needed one of these in the past, and I'm sure you know what to do with it. And we're going to give you one of these project planning books so you can keep track of what you did on that project or any project. Then we're going to give you a Holley gift card to help offset some of the cost of that project. And we're going to give you a Gearz V8 Interceptor t-shirt, and we'll throw in a couple for those grandkids as well. And then we're going to give you a year's subscription to any of the Hub magazines that you like. There's 4 different titles. You choose which one you want for a year. Now, for the rest of you guys, if you want to get in on this, get your project featured on the show, man, you got to send it to us. Go to our website, go to Gearz Nation, and submit it into What Are You Working On? The website's also the place to find out more information on any products you may have seen on the show, any Gearz merchandise, and how to join Gearz Nation. Now, being a Gearz Nation member gives you access to our new app through Android and iOS, where you can watch all of our Gearz content commercial-free. Also, don't forget to check us out on Amazon Prime for Gearz and the Restoration series. Finally, don't forget to like us on Facebook and Instagram so you can get some behind-the-scenes footage on our weekly web series, Shifting Gears. And if you're a radio person, make sure you check out our new podcast, Tales of a Gearhead. All right, that wraps it up for us today. Hopefully this inspires you to get out there and work on something, even if it's just a little go-kart for the grandkids. It's all good stuff. All right, get out there, work on something. We'll see you next time.